How far would you go to change your perception of reality? Would you take a drug that brings on terrifying visions of the dead? Would you drink 140 proof alcohol to inspire artistic visions? Would you travel thousands of miles to chase a dangerous high in the Amazon? What kind of altered state would be taboo for you? For thousands of years, man has been looking for ways to break through the physical bonds of life on Earth and travel to places beyond experience. Often, people have turned to powerful substances that act upon the mind to communicate with ancestors, overcome personal problems, or free artistic impulses. But with many drugs, that journey in the mind comes with life-threatening side effects.
Hallucinogens are poisons to the human body, and if taken in doses that are too strong, they can kill you.
Some societies outlaw hallucinogenic drugs, but others revere them, either as healing medicine or as sacraments to be taken at the center of solemn religious ceremonies. In the jungles of Central Africa, holy men from a religion called Bwiti believe they have found a way to talk to the dead. Bwiti rituals are designed to send followers into extreme altered states that Bwiti believe will provide valuable spiritual guidance to the faithful. Key to the Bwiti ceremony is a mind-altering natural drug that brings on violent nausea, terrifying visions, and occasionally even death. Some accuse Bwiti followers of practicing witchcraft and Satanism. Tool of the devil or a holy host, can a drug provide a round-trip ticket to the land of the dead? In Libreville, Gabon, two people are on a quest to change their lives. 40-year-old Frank Bubala and 19-year-old Christelle Aboué are about to undergo a grueling and dangerous initiation. In a 3-day ceremony, they will ingest large doses of an extraordinarily powerful hallucinogen that will force them to face their worst nightmares and, they hope, set their lives on new paths. They are not alone. Many people in Central Africa are turning to this traditional religion called Bwiti for help. At the heart of Bwiti is a small shrub, which grows deep in the tropical jungles. It is called iboga, and it's a cocktail of some of the most powerful hallucinogenic compounds known to man. Christelle, nicknamed Bonbon because of her love of candy, spends her nights on the streets and in the clubs of Libreville. Her mother is dead. She has never met her father, and she leads a life she wants out of.
There's a bad spirit that has something against me. That's why I want to be initiated, so I can get rid of the things that are bothering me.
Bonbon would like a husband, but most nights she hunts for anyone who will pay for sex.
If a man asks you how much, you try to get $40.
This week, Bonbon will be up all night for very different reasons. She hopes a mind-altering experience with iboga will change her life.
I'm going to take iboga, and the evil spirits which are in me will be chased out, and the good spirits will change me.
It is believed that during the visions induced by iboga, the initiates meet ancestral spirits who show them the solutions to their problems.
If you live in a world in which spirits are indeed real, in which the ancestors don't rise up to some heaven or descend to some hell, that the ancestors are here, then these kind of societies need to have mechanisms to talk to the ancestors.
James Pritchett is director of the African Studies Center at Boston University.
The mechanisms might be hallucinogenics, it may be channeling, but every society that believes in the daily presence of their ancestors will indeed evolve some sort of mechanism for actually talking to them.
Not far from where Bonbon walks the streets, Frank is having troubles of his own.
I have problems, with music especially. I've been working at it for 15 years and still haven't had the possibility of getting it produced.
An orphan and struggling musician, Frank is at a loss as to why he hasn't found success in life. He too is turning to the Bwiti faith for answers.
I think that Iboga can tell me exactly what steps to take in order to achieve my dreams. Maybe one day to have a producer and release my own pop single.
Frank and Bonbon will be guided through their initiation by Bwiti priest Mwembe Fidel. Mwembe must journey deep into the rainforest, where he asks the forest spirits to accept Bonbon and Frank as initiates. Belief in the divine power of plant spirits extends throughout the globe. From India, where Hindu holy men meditate using marijuana, a plant sacred to the god Shiva, to Mexico, where the Huichols still worship the peyote cactus as a god incarnate. To believers, these plants are alive and pulsing with ancient wisdom. Mwembe has the spirit's blessing. Now he can collect the iboga.
You can't go into the forest and just take a plant. Plants have spirits, like this iboga plant. So you must talk to the spirits, explain what you're going to do with it.
It is the root bark that contains the psychoactive portion of the plant. This is the drug central to all Bwiti beliefs and healing ceremonies.
This is the good stuff that's underground. This is the true prize.
Iboga is believed to have been discovered by pygmies in ancient times. They used small doses of iboga as a stimulant to endure long journeys without fatigue. When Bantu tribes came in contact with the pygmy peoples several centuries ago, they ritualized the taking of iboga, and the religion of Bwiti was born. Frank and Bonbon are taken to a Bwiti temple on the outskirts of Libreville, where they are given a noxious concoction of forest plants that causes them to vomit.
What you see there, that is the evilness that was in your body. The iboga draws it out of you. Now, the initiate can see the truth.
After washing themselves and symbolically changing from black to white, Frank and Bonbon follow the Bwiti congregation to the river for a baptism ceremony. Only after this will they finally be ready to take the iboga and confront their demons. Coming up, iboga inspires terrifying visions of the dead. A killer cocktail reappears in Paris. And an American tourist takes a South American drug trip. In a West African village, two people, desperate to change their lives, are submitting themselves to a dangerous mind-altering ritual.
There is a notion that one has to get to a point of bouncing back.
Donald Geroliman is an anthropologist at Smith College.
You get sick almost to the point of dying, almost to the point of not being able to survive. This is a classic kind of rite of passage.
After only his second dose, Frank reacts violently. Throwing up is normal in a Bwiti ceremony, but Frank has blood in his vomit. That might terrify an outsider, but to Mwembe, it is just the iboga working to rid Frank of his deep-seated troubles.
The blood, that's just his problems being released on the inside.
Unlike Frank, Bonbon still appears unaffected by the iboga, but she is refusing another dose. To her sweet tooth, iboga is too bitter to swallow. Frank is still vomiting blood, but he is now ready to let the holy plant take him into another world. A mirror is placed in front of him, and herbal drops designed to help bring on visions are put into his eyes. He stares into the mirror intently for hours, slowly losing contact with his surroundings. How iboga causes hallucinations is not fully understood. It is believed that iboga acts on the brainstem, causing it to release transmitters that flood and excite cells in the cerebellum. The cerebellum is the part of the brain where motor coordination, memory, and dreams come together. These hallucinogenic effects can last for well over 30 hours. Though Bonbon tried to refuse the iboga, ultimately she is made to down 6 doses. Finally, Bonbon succumbs to the power of the drug. Frank is already having visions.
They're pulling me out of the water and saying, look, there's a small photo. It keeps changing. It's becoming like a small dog. Now it's a mask. It's changing faces.
Bonbon starts slipping into another reality as well.
I saw my father. He was pushing me with snakes. I could feel my heart beat here in my chest. I could not wake up. I wanted to escape, but my father's foot blocked me.
No matter how terrifying the visions, there is no turning back. The initiates will have to ride it out.
My mother had the eyes of a cat. She came with a knife. Suddenly I heard something that said, "Go, Christelle. Go kill your father. If you do not, he will hurt you again."
Some might see this as drug abuse, but the Bwiti faithful believe altered states can be a kind of therapy. They are not alone. Doctors around the world are promoting iboga and other natural hallucinogens as potential cures for drug addiction, and the positive effects of mind-bending plants like peyote and mushrooms are the subjects of psychiatric studies costing millions. But Bwiti followers do not feel the need for scientific proof. They believe in iboga and revere the altered state that allows them to hear the summons from ancestral ghosts.
Now, it could be the ancestors are knocking on the door because they're disappointed. People are fighting, fussing, feuding. They're not living well. It could be they're angry because people aren't sharing or following some rule. It could be that someone broke some promise to the ancestor.
As their minds drift further away, their bodies eventually collapse. Though they may appear to be asleep, Frank and Bonbon are far from resting. The Bwiti say their souls have left their bodies to wander with the ancestors in the land of the dead.
2 men appeared before me. They had no face, no features.
I had the knife. Then somebody took my hand and stopped me.
Down towards a cliff. They threw me in the water, both grabbing me, one at each arm. A black stain stayed on the water.
My mother told me, "No, you can't follow your father's path. You have to follow my path. It was I who brought you into this world, not him."
Their journey of discovery will last the entire night. Emerging from their experience the following day, Frank and Bonbon celebrate their rebirth. According to Bwiti belief, iboga enabled them to journey to the ancestors and the gods and return purified into a new life. Will it work? Bonbon and Frank seem convinced that it will.
Since I saw my mother, it will change my life. Like before, I was not all here. Now I am here. I will look for a job. I am very happy.
The entities told me the course of action to take. They told me, make music that goes everywhere. Make universal music. They said, don't let the past discourage you. Have confidence in yourself. And I'm sure that in the long run, things will get better. Better than they were before.
In Western societies, mind-altering substances are not usually taken in houses of worship. They're used in bars and clubs, where people do drugs just for the thrill, and where the most popular drug is so common, people forget it's even a drug.
Alcohol is always a drug. It is a drug. We think it's not because it's legal.
David Lenson of the University of Massachusetts writes about drugs.
It's so woven into the social fabric of the world we live in. It's built into the landscape, and it's inescapable.
But there is one cocktail so feared, it once was banned across the Western world. Now, in Europe, it's making a comeback. It was the drink that set 19th century Paris reeling. And most here think it's still illegal. But if you know where to look, you can find one of the most dangerous liquors known to man, the Emerald Elixir, absinthe. Banned for almost a century, absinthe is back. And already a new generation is developing a craving for its unique punch, a wallop some compare to marijuana, speed, even LSD.
It casts a spell over you. It puts a buzz in your ticker and in your brain, you know?
A high-octane mix of herbs and 140 proof alcohol. Absinthe has been praised as an aphrodisiac and a hallucinogen, and condemned as addictive, poisonous, and even deadly. Once favored by artists and poets, it's said to have driven many to violent fits of madness. If there's a risk absinthe can make you crazy, artist Alain Juteau is willing to take it. At 46, Alain insists he thrives on the visions the liquor gives him.
I can work without taking hallucinogens, absinthe, or alcohol, but when I take them, it lets me better concentrate on my work.
Alain seeks absinthe-induced visions at his studio outside Paris, where he builds props for movies and commercials. Here, he surrounded himself with his favorite sources of inspiration.
They're all references, little things I look at when I'm trying to make an object.
And once Alain's had a few glasses of absinthe, he sees what's around him in a whole new light. Stoked on absinthe, Alain dreams up devils and demons that he later transforms into reality.
When you take absinthe, you leave on a mental voyage. It's like these images, like dreams that come and flash in front of your eyes. You have the impression that they're all around you.
Absinthe's power to produce visions is often linked to an unusual ingredient called wormwood.
Absinthe is different in that it is inherently a polydrug concoction. That is, it contains both alcohol and this derivative of wormwood. In other words, it's really two drugs at once.
Wormwood contains psychoactive properties that produce a sense of euphoria, similar to hashish. But scientists believe too much wormwood can cause convulsions, brain damage, and even death. And there's another characteristic that's particular to wormwood. It's one of the least appetizing herbs on the planet. It's so bitter, it's often used as an insecticide.
You have an extremely bitter taste in your mouth and nose once you've breathed in dust from wormwood. It is very difficult to endure.
At the distillery started by his great-grandfather, Émile Pernod has begun to make absinthe again. Although he admits that he doesn't drink it much himself, Émile contends that wormwood shouldn't stop anyone else from imbibing absinthe.
It has never been proven by pharmaceutical laboratories to be a dangerous product. Nothing has been proven.
But it's not just wormwood that gives absinthe its kick. To make the drink, Émile combines the herbs with an alcohol that at 97% is nearly pure. Once distilled, his absinthe is an eye-popping 136 proof, more than 50% stronger than most vodkas.
Ah oui, ça c'est bon.
Alcohol affects every cell in your body, and it would seem to me the most dangerous of drugs precisely because it works on that cellular level. The dangers inherent in other drugs are actually far less.
Alain insists that absinthe's double whammy is a high he can control. Coming up, murder, madness, absinthe. And a South American drug with a knockout For French artist Alain Juteau, the notorious alcohol absinthe brings inspiration. But some would say Alain is playing with fire. The history of absinthe is littered with artists said to be ruined by the green goddess. Some blame Vincent van Gogh's madness on an absinthe addiction and swear it was the absinthe that made him hack off his own ear. Absinthe was also blamed for the shocking and violent behavior of two famous French poets, Paul Verlaine and Arthur Rimbaud. One bloody legend has it that during a round of debauched absinthe drinking, Rimbaud pulled out a knife and stabbed Verlaine. Verlaine later shot Rimbaud during another binge and spent 2 years in prison for the crime. And it was not just artists who were affected. In a particularly horrific event in Switzerland in 1905, a farmer returned home one night, wasted on absinthe. He grabbed his rifle and methodically murdered his pregnant wife and 2 small daughters. The story of the absinthe murders made front-page news across Europe. Absinthe became the focus of the growing anti-alcohol fever sweeping Europe and the United States. Blamed for violence, debauchery, and social anarchy, by 1915, absinthe was banned, even in France. The age of absinthe seemed to be over. But like a liquid vampire, the notorious green goddess has risen again. And today at the heavy metal bar La Cantata in Paris, anyone can try it. This is where Alain often begins his quest for artistic inspiration, and where he can choose from a range of absinthes, some nearly identical to those made a century ago. It's not hard to spot the absinthe drinkers in this crowd.
Doctor, I need some medicine.
They cluster around the fountains, waiting for their fix. Like many drugs, absinthe comes with its own ritual. First, just a few ounces of the potent liquor are added to the glass. Then, with the aid of a spoon specially designed to hold a sugar cube, the alcohol is sweetly diluted, drop by drop, creating a ghostly chemical reaction. Some even like to light theirs on fire.
Rituals around drug taking are intended to channel the energy and the alteration of consciousness in certain ways. I think that a lot of this ritualization indicates that you belong to a little club, a special society that knows the right handshake, in effect, and therefore gets only the finest out of that experience.
Nearly everyone agrees absinthe makes them gleeful. Their conversations quicken. Their laughter comes more easily. Their inhibitions drop.
I'm on fire. It makes you crazy, that absinthe.
But with absinthe, what goes up must come down. Alain has had 5 glasses of absinthe. His euphoria has faded, and he has drifted off. It's a mood very familiar to his girlfriend, his men.
When I see Alain's face when he has drunk some absinthe, he has a cunning, diabolical look. He is different. I'd say less communicative. I don't share the moments. I can't manage to have the same life or the same pleasures during those moments.
Perhaps he is following the diabolical visions in his mind.
When I take absinthe, I can see very well what I should do with each piece, with each little bit to make an object. When you look, things come to you. I appreciate that. It's an interior voyage.
A voyage from which some before him never returned. The Western notion of experimenting with drugs can seem strange, even bizarre, to those whose cultures have long used hallucinogens for sacred purposes. But many Westerners even travel to foreign lands to reach altered states. What happens when members of one culture join in the extreme practices of another?
Some Americans engage in what I like to call fast food spirituality, where they pull up to the window, they order their shaman in a box, and those folks are very likely to be quite disappointed because they've not given themselves the opportunity to engage in a conversation about the underlying belief system that generated the use of that drug.
Can powerful drugs used as sacraments be taken by tourists with the same mystical effects? Or will their journey take them to places they never meant to go? The Amazon rainforest, a dark Eden full of mystery and danger. For millennia, indigenous groups here have used plant hallucinogens to contact an invisible spirit realm and practice an ancient form of healing. Now, two outsiders will enter this realm. 34-year-old Ted Walsh and 19-year-old Robin Richards have journeyed over 4,000 miles from San Francisco to Iquitos, Peru. They will venture 200 miles further up the headwaters of the Amazon River, searching for a new experience, taking a potent hallucinogenic drug called ayahuasca.
One of my friends, when I said, yeah, I'm going down and I'm going to do ayahuasca, said, oh, I've heard about that drug. It's like dying. You're an insane person for doing it.
It is called the vine of the soul because users believe ayahuasca separates the soul from the body, allowing it to wander unfettered in the spirit world. To the people of the Amazon basin, this sacred vine is an umbilical cord connecting the earth to the heavens, an integral part of spiritual life here for thousands of years. It's still used today by shamans like Alberto Torres Davila. In his hands, ayahuasca is a powerful medicine.
We know about the medicinal properties of plants, which teach us many things that people do not know. In reality, it is the best medicine that exists in the world, because God put nature in the world.
El mundo, la naturaleza.
Their spiritual odyssey has brought Ted and Robin a long way to Don Alberto and the vine of the soul.
My main concern with taking ayahuasca is that it's going to be a drug experience, and that's not what I want. I hope the ayahuasca experience is more of a spiritual cleansing and maybe a medicine for the soul.
I think a drug is a treat for your mind. I don't think they should be overused, abused, because they are bad for your body. But if you take them rarely, I think you can get a lot out of some drug trips.
They know their journey is not without grave risk. The physical side effects of ayahuasca can be traumatic: excruciating nausea and diarrhea, accelerated heartbeat, and dangerous dehydration. But what most people fear are the visions. Ayahuasca can bring on harrowing hallucinations of death and despair.
You never thought you would see anything like this. Never in your wildest dreams could you imagine. But it really does happen.
Their guide upriver is Don Alberto's apprentice, 26-year-old Californian, Hamilton Southern.
Point, we're going to turn southeast.
As part of his apprenticeship, Hamilton has taken ayahuasca more than 70 times.
Our house is about 100 meters that way.
Ted and Robin arrive at their destination, a remote camp far from everything they know. Should anything go wrong here, they are a long way from help.
It's a huge risk. Taking a very powerful hallucinogenic drug in a part of the world that you have no familiarity with, 6,000 miles from the safety net of your life.
Coming up, can a shaman suck magic worms from a woman's brain? In a remote camp deep in the Amazon jungle, two Americans have come to experiment with a powerful hallucinogenic drug. But Ted and Robin are not alone. Shaman Don Alberto has summoned his daughter, Belen, here from Iquitos. He believes she's under attack from evil spirits sent by rival shamans. Shaman's unhappy that Alberto has been teaching Hamilton secret plant knowledge. Belen is suffering from severe headaches and is estranged from her husband.
They were putting a spell on me so that I would get rid of my husband. And so my father told me, "Daughter, I'm taking you to the camp for treatment so that you can be calm and not think about leaving your family." So I had to come here to be treated and try to be healthy again.
Shamans believe that repeated use of ayahuasca opens them to the divine realm, allowing them to experience visions even without the aid of the drug. Don Alberto and Hamilton team up to fight the witchcraft plaguing Belen. examines Belen, he has a nightmarish image of the cause of her headaches.
In her case, I immediately saw a ball the size of a small orange of worms that looked very similar to tapeworms, all rolled on each other and tied in big knots.
The vision is so real to Hamilton, he attempts to physically suck the worm ball out of Belen's brain.
I was finally able to get about half of it out, and then I bit it off. Now that the ball had been broken into, it completely released and unraveled, and then just started coming out similar to pulling hot pasta, hot spaghetti out of a pot. Kind of like that, they're just streaming out all of these worms.
Alberto believes Belen will need to drink ayahuasca if she is to be finally healed. This is bad news for Belen. She has taken ayahuasca before and knows how rough the experience can be.
I was scared. My whole body was frightened. And I told my father I didn't want any more.
Time to make the donuts.
The next morning, the tourists help to prepare the ayahuasca. The bark is pounded down to release its spirit. Alberto adds chacruna leaves, which contain the drug DMT. Illegal in the United States, DMT can induce terrifying feelings of madness and imminent death. The mixture will be boiled down to its essence, an essence laced with danger.
The feeling that we get from this ayahuasca is that it's going to be strong. The vine itself felt very, very potent.
Don Alberto stands watch over the ayahuasca and will act as the spiritual guide during the ceremony. He instructs everyone to speak to the plant spirits and seek their blessing.
We will call to the spirits, and they will respond. What do you need? And we will say, we want to reach a good state of consciousness. We want to be healed.
Darkness descends on the forest. Don Alberto decides the ceremony can begin. For the novices, anticipation gives way to dread.
You put something into your body that is, once it's in, there's no turning back. It's scary to go into something you don't have any control over.
Vomit buckets are laid out for each participant.
What I do worry about is feeling like I'm going to die, like thinking it's never going to end.
Good luck, and we're going to be here for you.
Thank you.
See you on the other side.
Each step in the ritual is born out of centuries of shamanic experience. The shamans cleanse themselves with tobacco smoke and begin singing ikaros, divine songs calling the spirits of the ceremony. Finally, the moment has arrived. Don Alberto pours out the portions. Everyone must drink the vine of the soul. The taste is revolting, but they force it down. Now, they can only wait.
I felt it going slowly down through my whole body, not just through my stomach, but I could feel like a sensation in my arms and legs. And Ted started saying, okay, it's coming on. I'm seeing stuff coming on.
Ted is the first to purge. Don Alberto believes the spirit of the ayahuasca is collecting the bad energy and expelling it. Robin also begins vomiting. Alberto directs healing energy into Belen's body through song. Shamans believe ayahuasca visions can be manipulated by sound. After an hour, the lights must be extinguished. For only in darkness can the visions come. In the total darkness of the Amazon night, an ayahuasca ceremony is in full swing. 19-year-old Robin begins to drift into vision, but finds herself resisting.
My mind was racing with all these thoughts. I was watching the shadows, I was watching the roof, and it was pulsing like... I just remember thinking, if I just have to breathe, if I just take deep breaths.
Racked by by relentless nausea and miles from medical help, Ted is now gripped by diarrhea. He struggles to get up and has to be helped to the bathroom. Belen is having a different kind of experience. As the ayahuasca takes hold, she also purges, but to her, it's a physical manifestation of the witchcraft leaving her body. Her visions can now begin.
I felt a violent gust of wind. I felt cold and saw my husband far away. Then he came to me and freed me, and we have reunited again spiritually. He said, "Let's go to the house of the shaman that is putting a spell on you." The shaman wanted to fight with my husband. Then my husband told him not to put any more spells on me.
Ayahuasca has brought Belen healing visions, but Ted's agony of vomiting and diarrhea will continue off and on for 8 long hours, lasting through the night. By morning, everyone has returned to the real world. Belen feels the ayahuasca has done its job in fighting the witchcraft. Her headaches have stopped, and she plans to reunite with her husband.
I'm thinking of my children and my husband. Before, I didn't think of anything. I just thought about going far away, even though I didn't know where. The ayahuasca makes us better. It protects our bodies. I feel a good deal better.
The two tourists, however, see things from a different perspective.
There was nothing spiritual about it. My body did not want ayahuasca. I mean, I'm throwing up, I'm violently ill, it's in my stomach, I want it out.
I was worried about Ted. He looked like awful, like he was throwing up so much and he'd have to get up and go to the bathroom and he could barely walk and stuff. And to me, I was just like, I'm so glad that that's not me.
Alberto doesn't believe Ted's experience was a bad one. He sees Ted's purging as an essential part of the ayahuasca ceremony.
If the body is not well, if it is unclean, it must be cleansed.
Ted has a different view.
It's a very sad thing to me that basically really all it came down to was like doing a drug. And I thought it was kind of ironic that it wasn't a very good drug. It was kind of very typical drug that I'm positive I could find in San Francisco.
I think people are disappointed because they expect that in a compressed period of time, taking a drug will provide insights to them that they have not otherwise been able to accomplish. To imagine that you can fly in, go upriver, take some drugs, and suddenly gain enlightenment is a peculiarly American notion that is not in any way consistent with the way that shamans understand the transmission of knowledge.
For millennia, human beings have gone to great lengths, conducted elaborate rituals, and consumed fearsome drugs in order to enter altered states of consciousness. Whether to speak with lost loved ones, heal relationships, or unleash creative drives, drug-induced journeys into the world of dreams have always entailed risk. But the promise of enlightenment through visions keeps calling to people, pulling them from their day-to-day lives and drawing them ever deeper into the realm of the taboo.
Hallucinogens are poisons to the human body, and if taken in doses that are too strong, they can kill you.
Some societies outlaw hallucinogenic drugs, but others revere them, either as healing medicine or as sacraments to be taken at the center of solemn religious ceremonies. In the jungles of Central Africa, holy men from a religion called Witi believe they have found a way to talk to the dead. Witi rituals are designed to send followers into extreme altered states that Witi believe will provide valuable spiritual guidance to the faithful. Key to the Witi ceremony is a mind-altering natural drug that brings on violent nausea, terrifying visions, and occasionally even death. Some accuse Witi followers of practicing witchcraft and Satanism. How far would you go to change your perception of reality? Would you take a drug that brings on terrifying visions of the dead? Would you drink 140 proof alcohol to inspire artistic visions? Would you travel thousands of miles to chase a dangerous high in the Amazon? What kind of altered state would be taboo for you? Thousands of years, man has been looking for ways to break through the physical bonds of life on Earth and travel to places beyond experience. Often, people have turned to powerful substances that act upon the mind to communicate with ancestors, overcome personal problems, or free artistic impulses. But with many drugs, that journey in the mind comes with life-threatening side effects.
I'm going to take iboga, and the evil spirits which are in me will be chased out, and the good spirits will change me.
It is believed that during the visions induced by iboga, the initiates meet ancestral spirits who show them the solutions to their problems.
If you live in a world in which spirits are indeed real, in which the ancestors don't rise up to some heaven or descend to some hell, that the ancestors are here, then these kind of societies need to have mechanisms to talk to the ancestors.
James Pritchett is director of the African Studies Center at Boston University.
The mechanisms might be hallucinogenics, it may be channeling, but every society that believes in the daily presence of their ancestors will indeed evolve some sort of mechanism for actually talking to them.
Not far from where Bon Bon walks the streets, Frank is having troubles of his own.
I have problems.
Boga, and it's a cocktail of some of the most powerful hallucinogenic compounds known to man. Christelle, nicknamed Bon Bon because of her love of candy, spends her nights on the streets and in the clubs of Libreville. Her mother is dead. She has never met her father, and she leads a life she wants out of.
There's a bad spirit that has something against me. That's why I want to be initiated, so I can get rid of the things that are bothering me.
Bon Bon would like a husband, but most nights she hunts for anyone who will pay for sex.
If a man asks you how much, you try to get $40.
This week, Bon Bon will be up all night for very different reasons. She hopes a mind-altering experience with iboga will change her life. Tool of the devil or holy host? Can a drug provide a round-trip ticket to the land of the dead? In Libreville, Gabon, two people are on a quest to change their lives. 40-year-old Frank Boubala and 19-year-old Christelle Aboué are about to undergo a grueling and dangerous initiation. In a 3-day ceremony, they will ingest large doses of an extraordinarily powerful hallucinogen that will force them to face their worst nightmares and, they hope, set their lives on new paths. They are not alone. Many people in Central Africa are turning to this traditional religion called Bwiti for help. At the heart of Bwiti is a small shrub, which grows deep in the tropical jungles. It is called